Compassion may be the milk of charity, but a well-articulated vision and organization are the indices that guarantee effectiveness. Aspire Coronation Trust ACT Foundation is a grant-making non-profit organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and associated vulnerabilities across the African continent. Our work factored from the SDGs formulated for global best practices ensure that we can affect our societies in ways that ensure a cascade of knowledge, interest, and development long after we are gone. This we are doing by fostering ownership as we drive sustainable impact within our communities. Our interests, as evidenced, span health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. In channeling resources to the organizations we fund, ACT Foundation is committed to developing and strengthening them to ensure sustainability through organizational development, monitoring and evaluation, impact measurement, board governance, and support. The objective is to guarantee the delivery of effective and efficient outcomes to the beneficiaries.
When we started off, one of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that the organizations we're working with, it was not really about just giving them money to go and resources to go and solve problems, but we wanted to partner with them as well to make sure that in the long term, we're building sustainable organizations. You can see the difference in terms of the growth of the organizations, but also in terms of the solutions to problems that the challenges the different communities are facing.
Dustbin Village, a rural and underserved area in Lagos, home to over 550,000 people. Rufina's vision was becoming a burden. She hugged the television set like her life depended on it. The classroom was not any better. But through the intervention superintended by Vision Spring and Catholic Opticals, working with ACT Foundation, Rufina now has her eyeglasses.
When she was looking at TV, she would go very close to the screen. Then I asked her some questions. Are you not seeing well? Good enough. Their teachers at school noticed this problem. I was making arrangements, trying to put up, because I know how much this glass I'm wearing, how much it cost me.
Before I got the glasses, I felt miserable, frustrated. I felt handicapped, like I was missing out in everything that the teacher was saying.
Since she got this glass, that report is no longer there.
I feel great. At least anything that the teachers they are writing on the board, or if they're making an illustration on the board. Wow, with this glass, I'm able to do better in my study.
Considering my lame pocket, when you look at this place now, you see that a man of 3 kids, that one has saved me some money, which I should have spent to procure a glass for her.
From the depths of my heart, I want to say a big thank you to Art Foundation and Vision Spring for giving me the opportunity to be able to see the world differently.
Basically, what we said is if we can go into communities with their sponsorship and support, we can screen all Nigerians to ensure that we kick out refractive error and presbyopia. And they sponsored 7,500 glasses, and we screened about 16,000 plus Nigerians, including people in the Dustbin village.
At the end of the project, we were able to give glasses to 7,659 people, women and children.
People want us to give, beneficiaries 70,000. Indirect is another number of thousands. But we do a lot of monitoring. So all the programs we've done last year, we are doing the monitoring and evaluating of the programs right now, because we want to be sure that really the effects that we claim are really happening is what is happening.
The Fitch International Evaluation Report on Economic Performance in 2016 reveals that more than 55% of the youths are either unemployed or underemployed.
The solutions in terms of getting them started on a business is sometimes so overwhelming, and we try as much as possible to find organizations that are working and creating hands-on solutions.
Entrepreneurship is one of the solutions to reducing poverty, as it is a medium to improve the quality of life for individuals, families, and communities, and also sustain a healthy economy and environment. During this period, 84 female entrepreneurs in Lagos State and 2,000 secondary school students in Ogun and Oyo states have gone through a rigorous entrepreneurial training. Olatunji Olamilekan is a young man who is redirecting his vision. He grew up in the Olaleye community, which is another rural and underserved area of Lagos State. Raised alongside his younger sisters, Olatunji's mother took ill in 1999 and later died.
The promise I made to my mom, I just have to keep going. And the only thing that always kept me back to the track then is this education of the thing, like, this is my agreement with my mom. That was a dying wish.
Olatunji surmounted serious hardships, but still found himself at the crossroad of unemployment.
So now I actually went to the school and nothing is still happening. So, you know, that was what actually kept me moving ever since. That was that one goal that I actually went there. Now I've obtained the goals, then what else?
With some of his friends dead or unaccounted for, he needed to toe the straight and narrow, and the vocational skill acquisition project of Freedom Foundation, supported by ACT Foundation, presented the needed opportunity.
I saw them pass by in the, like a rally, so they give me a flyer, and then I read the flyer and I say like, okay, skill acquisition stuff, and I had to call one of them and say, please come. Are you sure this is free? And they say, yeah, of course it is. Like, we're not paying for it.
I see him as someone who will grow in it. I see him as someone that is patient, someone that has focus. So that's why I decided to retain him. It's going to be useful for me.
The grant has really helped us a lot because we've been able to reach out to over 500 people in communities in Surulere and Etiosa local government. And also we've heard so many interesting stories from people who were orphans, people who didn't have any means of livelihood, and they've been able to be empowered through this program. And some of them have gone on to start their own businesses, and some of them are now working and they're earning a living.
We're teaching hands-on enterprise, but also in terms of capacity building. So if you start a business, you can actually take it to the next level.
Through ACT Foundation's entrepreneurship intervention, 438 youths have received skills acquisition training, business management training for 60 budding entrepreneurs, employability training for 293 out-of-school youths in Yaba local government area, Lagos State. Henry Anumudu was a communication and media liaison officer at a media organization in the capital city of Abuja. Henry left his media career and applied for the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship in 2017.
I saw firsthand the crisis of education in Nigeria, and I was personally challenged to come into the system and try to see what good I can do.
After going through a 6-week training, where he learned teaching techniques and aids which would ensure children got maximum benefits from classroom learning, Henry was posted to Ebenezer Primary School in Abeokuta, where he teaches primary 5 pupils.
Being in the classroom has given me certain skills that are important for leadership: listening, patience, communication, being able to work under certain kind of pressures, to be able to also with my co-teachers, being able to create a working relationship with them, it's important because it can define your impact on the pupils. And that has also made me to be able to, work with others.
It was the one that made us to have press club in the school, which we have started today, and I was impressed during the assembly. He coordinated it, he explained, and the pupils per se, they are the one that read the news.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, said that we should not use plastic bag, but we should use paper bag to manage our waste.
The best definition for me for leadership is the person who decides or does the right thing at the right time. If you have that kind of person in such a system, whatever the inequity is or the challenge is, they will definitely solve that problem. So the best way we have thought about addressing or meeting our vision someday is placing the right leaders in the classroom. And that's the summary of what the whole fellowship is all about.
What you see that they've done, you can't really talk about the solutions for the next few years. It's very long term. But they were also using the younger generation to go back into the schools to do something that changes the life and the value system of the kids.
Doyisola Ogunye is a thoroughbred professional. As CEO of Medic, she is the driving force behind the Kids for Clean Seas initiative to schools in the Etiosa local government area axis.
We started the Kids for Clean Seas because we decided to take it back to the grassroots and to the children. We took the project Kids for Clean Seas to 16 schools across Etiosa, and we're letting them know that if you clean your environment, your immediate environment, you're actually making the oceans cleaner, because every litter that is dropped on the floor usually gets into the canals, and from the canals it finds its way to the waterways, and from the waterways it gets into the ocean. What happens after that is the fish we eat this plastic and gets into our own digestive system and into our bloodstream as well, causing a lot of illnesses that we don't even know about yet. So the most important thing is to nip it in the bud and let the children understand the importance of recycling, the importance of keeping their environment clean, and overall the importance of saving the planet from plastic pollution. At age 10, he's ready to start gathering children together to talk to them about what he has learned. He's ready all the time to lend a helping hand to what we're doing on the beach, in schools, and even at home. And I believe that in the next 10 years, Israel will definitely be a force to reckon with when it comes to taking care of the environment.
I started picking these PET bottles when I saw my sister picking it all around places. And I said, let me join. I'll be telling my friends that if they have any bottle that they want to throw away, and they will recycle it.
It was disturbing me. Mommy, I want to go with my sisters. I want to go.
Through the program, the school was given an award, and I myself, I have to. When your environment is clean, you will live more comfortably.
Some women are now able to sustain themselves through avenues created by this initiative. Kids have also imbibed a positive attitude towards the environment and will take this with them into the future. Through our grantees, ACT Foundation was able to reach 18 communities, 18,000 people, and 26 public schools. In addition, 45 trees were planted and 34,450 recyclables generated.
My son had come back from school once, and he started explaining, we had to recycle, you can't use this to cook, you can't do this anymore. And I was just like, gosh, it's just because it changes your habits, what you are used to doing for the last 20, 30 years.
ACT Foundation is grateful to our partners and sponsors for trusting us.
Without Access Bank, and especially Mr. Herbert Wigwe, we won't be where we are. The backing they give you is second to none. And then of course, we also allowing us to do what we know how to do. gives you a spirit to soar. Africa is the melting point for us. The story of Africa is also always told in a very negative way. And as an indigenous grant-making organization, we want people to also understand that we can be a solution to the problems that we are facing. We, as Africans, have to change and solve the problems that we have.
The Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation is a grant-making organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and related vulnerabilities across Africa. Our vision: to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa. Our mission: to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potentials and empower beneficiaries. ACT Foundation supports sustainable, high-impact initiatives that provide innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges in Africa. In our 4-year journey, we have funded 75 organizations across 800 African communities. Over 1.9 million people provided with critical interventions in the following 4 focus areas: health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. From 36 health interventions, we have impacted 328,283 plus people. The Foundation's work is in line with the Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which is geared towards facilitating better healthcare services and outcomes for the underdeserved and low-income groups in communities across Africa. Our health interventions through our implementing partners are focused on cancer, maternal and child health, malaria. In the areas of entrepreneurship, from 28 interventions, we have impacted 17,015 plus people.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to ACT Foundation's 2023 Grant Cycle Information Session. I'm so glad to have you all here with us today. My name is Elo Orade. I'm Programs Associate at ACT Foundation, and we're happy to have you here with us today. It's been a minute since we met. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who was able to attend the ACT Foundation's 2022 Breakfast Dialogue Conference, both in person and virtually. We really appreciate your presence. And if you were not in attendance, you can still watch it on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is ACT Foundation. So it's exciting times. It's October, and for some of us, we know what that means. It means that our grant cycle for the new year is about to begin, and that's why we're having this session here today. We want to discuss our grant expectations, what makes a good application. We want to answer your questions about what we look for in applications that we receive, what makes a great proposal. We'll tell you the cycle, the time span in our grant application process, and we're hopeful that we're able to answer all of your questions as much as we can take. So I'll just take a few ground rules to kick us off. Firstly, it's a webinar, so if you want to ask a question, you can use the Q&A section, and then we'll take the questions after the presentation. Secondly, there'll be polls at different times during the session, so please complete them as much as you can. They help us to improve our sessions and our training purpose. Also, avoid multitasking. You want to get the most out of the session as much as you can, and so just concentrate and make sure that you're taking notes and you're able to implement all that will be shared here today. So without further ado, I think I would like to give maybe 2 minutes for more people to join, and then I'll continue right after. So please give me just 2 minutes so that more people can join. Now about 115 people in the room right now. And so I'll just give 1 or 2 minutes for more people to join, and then we'll continue with the opening address. Thank you very much.
And 15 plus people working directly with Sustainable Development Goal 1, No Poverty, and Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. To achieve this goal, the Foundation supports initiatives in the following areas: vocational skills acquisition, financial inclusion and literacy education. In the areas of environment, from 12 interventions, we have impacted 47,833 plus people. We are focused on providing innovative solutions for waste management. We have created awareness on waste management, waste upcycling, recycling, and disposal. In the end, the Foundation aims to reduce the effect of improper waste management in communities across the region and encourage the reuse of certain waste materials. Another area supported by the Foundation concerning the environment is the promotion of clean water and sanitation. In the areas of leadership, from 16 interventions, we have impacted 1,525,353 plus people. We are continuously developing the leadership skills of individuals, particularly young people, for governance, economic, organizational, and professional development. To achieve this, the Foundation partners with organizations that focus on thought leadership and national development. We have reached 6 African countries. We contribute to capacity development within the non-profit and impact space and have conducted 30 plus capacity building trainings. 1,700 plus people reached through our annual Breakfast Dialogue multi-stakeholder conference. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference.
Thank you so much for waiting. So we're kicking off immediately. To officially open the session for us, I'd like to invite our Head of Programs, Elo Ayamu, to give us a welcome address, and then we can proceed.
Okay. Hello everyone. We're happy to see you here today. Hope your day is going on well. So on behalf of our CEO, Osai Alile, we'd like to welcome you to this information session. We hope that you can learn more about ACT Foundation and our grant cycle for the year. So be attentive, look out for, feel free to drop your questions and we'll try and answer as much as possible. So I think that's it. So welcome, follow us on our social media pages as posted here to be updated about things that are happening with ACT Foundation and about this grant cycle. So welcome once again. Elo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Elo. So before we start, I'd just like to take a quick poll. And this is a poll that we take just to help us to improve our processes and our trainings that we conduct, and also to understand the demography of the people, the participants joining us today. Please let me know if you can see the poll on your screen. If you can, just say yes in the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Please complete the polls. I think we only have 5 people who have completed. Let's get it up to 80. Thank you so much. Thank you to the 42 people who have completed. We're halfway through. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, we have 85 now, so I think we're good. Thank you so much, everyone, for completing the poll. And now we're about to begin to take us on a session on what our expectations are and the 2023 grant cycle. I'd like to invite Ms. Indifeke Okwebunam. Ms. India, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Hi, hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on from the part of the world that you're joining us from. I'm really excited to be here today and to be sharing with you today. My name is Ndifreke Okwebunam. We have been doing this for the past 6 years. This is going to be our 7th grant cycle. Am I right, Elo? Our 7th grant cycle since we started. Yes, we're super excited. And in this time, we have done some really interesting work. We have worked with some really interesting people and had huge impact. And we wouldn't have achieved this without our partners, the staff at the foundation, and then even you that are applying for the grants as well. So we're excited that you're here and that you're going to be learning a about sustainable indigenous NGOs that have the capacity and the reputation to make real impact. Which is why you find that ACT Foundation is constantly training. We're constantly building capacity of the organizations we work with and also building capacity for organizations that we interact with in anywhere at all. Which I'll just use this opportunity and also say that we have also written a book because we know that it's important that people that are not able to maybe interact with us face to face or attend our trainings are able to get our books, read it, and it's very informative. It's a 4-part book, so I'll encourage you to take a look at it. I'm sure the team will tell you a bit about it at the end of this, but we're constantly conscious of the fact that we need to build capacity for the sector. So we have organizations that can create real impact on the continent. Another of our strategic objectives is to expand our footprint across Africa. We want to become a globally respected non-profit brand on the continent. There are not very many indigenous grant-making organizations. There's a lot of international funding coming in. But as an indigenous organization, we want to work with partners here on the continent to ensure that we are making impact and people are aware that an organization like ACT Foundation exists that are taking the bold step to solve problems on the continent and putting money to it as well. Also, we want to establish valuable partnerships and strategic alliances with all stakeholders, so grantees, non-profit organizations, public sector, private sector as well. Also, we want to adopt and implement global best practices that can measure the impact of projects funded by the foundation. Our core values as an organization is partnerships, excellence, accountability, and impact driven. And we hold ourselves to these core values and also hold our grantee organizations to these core values as well, because it's important that we are all working towards the same direction and we have similar values. Our focus area as an organization is in 4 areas: is health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. This is very important to note because sometimes we get organizations applying to us that don't fall into these focus areas. However, because we know that health is so wide, there's so much happening in health, in enterprise, in environment, we have streamlined it as well, and then have sub areas to show you exactly what we focus on. Now, in health, our focus is malaria. So we fund interventions across malaria in any part of the continent. We fund interventions in cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, and prostate cancer. We fund interventions in maternal and child health. Now, I want to focus a bit on maternal and child health. Maternal and child health is quite broad. So any intervention that involves maternal health, so we funded interventions in preeclampsia, in maternal mental health, in reducing mortality, there are just several interventions that can come in there. I can't even mention all of them. So there's that leeway for you to ensure that whatever your project is, how does it align to these focus areas in health? And the same thing applies with child health, right? We've funded malaria interventions for children. We've funded interventions in jaundice and all other sorts of interventions. So those are areas that is important to focus on if you work in that sector. I want to emphasize that please don't jump into a sector now because you say, ACT Foundation is giving funding in that area. It has to be a sector that you're already working in and that you've done some work in already. So you have some track record in that space. In entrepreneurship, our focus area is vocational education and skills acquisition. So we don't just want to teach enterprise trainings. We want to teach people skills that they can use to build an income for themselves and improve on their livelihoods. We also fund interventions in financial literacy and inclusion. In leadership, our focus is youth leadership development. Leadership is a huge challenge on the continent of Africa. And we know that as the new younger generation come up, we have to change their mindset. We have to prepare them to realign them. It's not about positions. It's about your ability to influence people. Our final focus area is in environment. And in environment, we're very straightforward in that area, is waste management and water and sanitation. So these are our 4 focus areas for this grant cycle. In another year or 2, it could change, but right now, this is the area that we are focusing on. Now, let me introduce you to some of our grantee organizations, because in previous information sessions, we hear people ask us questions about who do you fund. We don't know any of the organizations we fund. If you visit our website and you've taken some time to go through our website, you'll find all these organizations here, and you can go and do some research on them, so you have a better understanding of the sort of projects that we fund. And see how it aligns with what we're proposing for us to fund. So we have organizations. We've shown you our 2017 grantees. In that first year, we did just about 22 organizations. That was our very first grant cycle. We're super excited. In 2018, we funded some organizations as well, and we've gone through 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 grantees that are currently still running their projects. If you look at this, you will find certain organizations that we have funded over and over again, and there are new organizations as well that we have funded. So I would advise you go to our website and see some of these organizations. Those organizations that have gotten repeat funding, and I'm saying this because we get questions such as why are you doing a 12 months grant cycle? Because our grant cycle is annual. We don't do 2-year, multi-year is 12 months. Because we want to give organizations the opportunity to improve on the work they do, learn lessons from their first partnership with us, and improve on the work so that we can continue to make more impact. So you find that there are some organizations we funded them every single year through all the grant cycles because they've done great work, they've shown impact, they've shown the capabilities to continue to grow and improve and stay sustainable, and we're proud to continue working with such organizations. So when you get in, don't think about it, okay, I've gotten the money now, so we'll do what we want, whatever we want to do. No. Think about all the other opportunities that can come up for you to get more funding from us as well. So I just thought to emphasize that, and I hope that it helps someone. Thank you, Eo. You're moving at a very good pace for me. Right. So let's talk about past grants applications. And this is important. So it is important because you see how we have grown and see how competitive the grant process is. And sincerely, it's hard. It's not easy for us to choose 20 plus organizations from over 1,000 applications that we receive. We have to be very strategic about it. So it's important that you take note of this. When we first started, our very first grant cycle was in 2017. We had just under 300 applications, and we funded 22 grantee organizations. By the time we got to 2018, right, we had over 750 applications. We selected 25 grantees to fund, and that kept growing. The number of applications kept growing, kept improving. In 2020, COVID came, and it destabilized the entire world. Yet we had over 1,400 applications. When we had the applications, we were very excited about funding projects. But as you know, our grant cycle started the year before. So in 2019, we had plans to fund a certain number of organizations, which were going to be even more than what we funded the previous year. But by 2020, COVID hit. We had to re-strategize like a lot of other organizations. And in that year, we're only able to fund 18 organizations. And I say only because we wanted to be able to do more. But we were, despite the challenges, despite the difficulty in implementation for a lot of organizations, our organizations took the bull by the horn and transitioned to virtual sessions, and we're still able to make impact, and we're very proud of the work that we did. 2021, the numbers, we got applications, and we're able to go back to funding more grantees, and we funded 27 grantees. In 2022, we had over 1,800 applications. And now, Elokan, am I fine? Am I breaking up, or
No, you're good.
Are we good?
You're good.
Thank you very much. I'm a bit worried that my internet might be a bit unstable at certain times. Right. So the call for applications from different parts of the world, where you're telling us a bit about your project, but particularly you're telling us about your organization and why you should be you should be considered for a grant with the foundation. Now, there's a template for that stage, so we are not expecting you to go and write a concept note or go and write a full-fledged document, because you find some people may give a 20-page document, some people will give you a 3-page document, all of those things, and there's a lot of reading that needs to be done. So we have a template for this stage. The call for application stage, it's going to open up in a few weeks. There will be a link. Please, when you're applying, I would advise that you read the instruction carefully. I know sometimes you hear people say, oh, I wasn't able to open it on my mobile phone, or I wasn't able to open it on Edge, I wasn't able to open it on Firefox. Read the instruction carefully, because our technical team have worked on ensuring that it's available on particular platforms and it works well on those platforms. We're a young organization, we are continuously improving, but we have found that if you read the instructions and follow the instructions, you won't have any problem completing and submitting your application. So the call for application process, it will last between 4 to 5 weeks. It will be open for about 3 weeks, or no, 4 weeks, about 4 weeks. And then we have set a period where we are going to go through reviewing that and selecting the organizations that are going to move to the next stage. Something that I think is important to mention when it comes to the call for application stage is that please, and this is not just the call for every stage of this application, don't wait till a day or two before the call closes. There are too many people waiting to submit on that day that you find that all sorts of things happen. You have any internet connection issues, you are in trouble. You have where our systems are overloaded with everybody trying to submit at the same time, it could become a problem. So if you already have a project that you want to fund, begin to work on it and give yourself at least a week or two before the application stage closes so that you can submit with no hassles. It's very difficult. Usually the closing time for the call for application is, I think, 23:59 on that day. So let's say about 12 midnight on that day. I'm sure you're going to think that when you're trying at 11:53, there's an actual team on the back end just waiting to tell you, when you tell, I wasn't able to submit, somebody's going to respond to you. It may not happen, right? So it's safer for you. And this is because we have seen this happen over and over again, where people are expecting that there's somebody just waiting to, if you're sending an email, if you're sending a message saying, I'm not able to, the internet, we can't solve those problems at that time. It's better if you do it early enough so we can provide you all the support that you require to ensure that you submit your application. You only contact organizations that are going to be advancing to the proposal review stage. So that first stage is going to be a lot of sorting. So you have to ensure that you're capturing the right information. You're putting in the right information about your organization, about your project that is convincing, that makes your project stand out. Don't forget I mentioned the number of organizations that that apply and the number that we select. So what's going to make you stand out? You need to ensure that you're capturing all of that in that application so we can easily see it. And it's a very straightforward document. Then we'll move to the proposal stage. Now, just to clarify, we are not going to be able to imagine having 1,000+ people apply, and this year we're going to get even much more because funding is dwindling in the sector. So I'm sure we're going to get even more applications. So we're not going to be able to respond to, give a reply to everyone that wasn't successful at this stage. Please take note of it. We're going to give a final feedback to everyone by the time we ended with the entire process, but we won't be able to give feedback at this stage, and we'll not be able to give one-on-one feedback at the different stages as well. So then we'll transition you to the third stage, which is the proposal review stage, where there will be another link for everybody that is, and this link is unique to every organization. So please, this has happened before, so I would say it so that you take notes. You can't take your link and send it to your friend's organization to go in and put when the person did not get an invitation to submit a proposal. You get disqualified because the link, once you put it in, would show you and will show two people using the same code. So it's important that you do not do that. If your friend doesn't get it, it's unfortunate. Tell them they should try again the next time. But focus on you and your organization and the work you're doing. So you get an invitation to submit a proposal. This will now be more detailed about the work that you want to do. Don't forget the application stage is going to be us understanding a bit more about your organization and a bit about your proposal. By the time you go to the proposal stage or your intended proposal, or let me say your concepts, basically at the application stage, by the proposal stage, we're expecting a lot more details. We're expecting details such as your monitoring plan, we're expecting your sustainability plan, your log. There's so much you have, so there's some thought you need to put into it. So start putting that thought in place now. That would be for your proposal review stage. And only the organizations that are selected are going to be sending in their proposals. Now, these proposals are not going to be reviewed by ACT Foundation members. So if you're my friend, or you are Elo's friend, right, or Eloh's friend, and you think, oh, at least Elo, you know the name of my organization, you can help me out, that's not going to happen. Not because we don't like you, but we also want to stay. We want to stay independent, and we want to stay accountable. And also, one of our core values is integrity. So we do not want to be biased about who we select. So we give out all the proposals to external consultants who review them on our behalf. Now, for old grantees, please do not assume that because we have funded you before, you just need to give very basic information. That's not how it works. We are not going to review it. So you are still going to be convincing an external consultant that they should be funding your project. So instead, tell them about the work that you've done previously and what your impact was in that document. Show how you have progressed and to where you are and what you want to do now. If it's the same project, you'll continue. If it's a new project, you also need to be able to convince the external consultants that this project is definitely worth funding. It's a mistake that a lot of old grantees do, because they just assume that, oh, they funded us before. So the process is a level playing field for every single person, right? So please take note of that. So after we do the external reviews and we get feedback from our review committee members, we then select, based on their scoring and their grading and their feedback, we select the organizations that are going to move to the next stage. And this next stage is more of a due diligence stage. So this stage, we are going to be doing a lot more due diligence on each of the organizations. So whatever you write on paper, you have to make sure that that is exactly what it is, because we are going to be checking some of those information. We are going to be having interviews, physical visits, if need be, to your organizations to ensure that the organizations exist. We are then going to schedule interviews with these organizations. Now, this interview stage is where we then interact with you. We give you the opportunity to sell that project to us, right? So let's say the proposal stage we had made application, we had 2,000 plus applications, and maybe proposal stage we get to 500 or 800 people. Then the interview stage we get to maybe about 100 people. I'm just giving examples of numbers. It could be less, it could be more, right? Now, this is the opportunity for you to sell yourself. When you get to that stage, it means that on paper, you look good. So now you're coming there to tell us exactly who you are and why we should engage with you, why we should have this relationship with you and fund you, right, for the project that you propose. So please don't take it for granted when you get there. It can be very relaxed. You get to meet our CEO face to face. You get to meet the ACT Foundation team, right? And we just gist and find out about your project and ensure that there's a match and our values align. So that process usually will take another 2 to 3 weeks, because imagine there are 100 organizations. In our first 2 years, I think we had physical meetings because a number of our organizations were in Nigeria. But as we have grown over the years, we've realized that, and then with COVID as well, that physical meetings take up too much time. So now they're usually virtual meetings where you get to engage with us and then tell us a bit about yourself, about your organization, and sell your project and your organization to us. So that's very critical. Don't worry, at every stage you get information and you get guide on what to expect. To the next stage would then be where we notify the successful organizations of the award that they've been awarded the grants, and then we then inform all other organizations that have been unsuccessful. Now, just to clarify, because I know over the years people have been asking us to give specific feedback. You know, why didn't I get it? You start asking for those specifics. At the stage where we are not going to be able to give you those sort of specific feedback. We'll give you a general feedback of what we have found has been the common errors that most organizations have made at that stage. And then you know which one you have done wrong and which one you haven't. I would encourage that, and this is just me, based on some of the experiences that we've had at the foundation. CEOs, please look at the grants. If you really want to get these grants, don't just let your program managers and program officers officers apply without you seeing what they're putting out. Because sometimes you get to that stage and the CEOs are calling you and saying, "Oh no, but we do fantastic work." But what was put on paper, right, is the only thing that we can use to assess your organization to be able to fund your organization. So if you are interested in ensuring that you get the funding, please, every supervisory member of your team should please review the project. If it's CEO, if it's program manager, review the project officer's work to ensure that all that is documented properly so that you can have a chance at getting these grants. And just to state that the ACT Foundation grant is an exceptional grant, and not because I'm an ACT Foundation team member, but it's an exceptional grant because you're not just getting money from ACT Foundation, you're getting full support to make your organization sustainable, right? So this is something you should take note of and realize that you are not just getting money, you are getting the whole of the knowledge that ACT Foundation has, all its network to help you stay sustainable and to help you be better. Then it's an onboarding session for selected organizations. It's a compulsory session. We like the CEOs to be part of that session because you get to understand what we expect from you throughout the grant cycle so that there are no errors, there are no misunderstandings, and there are no challenges that we could avoid. So we encourage the CEOs and team members that are going to be involved in the project to be part of that onboarding session. So it's a compulsory onboarding session to help you understand the way we work and also help you interact with the members of the team so you know exactly who you're going to be dealing with. You may not, for example, interact with our communications team during the entire grant cycle, but at that stage where you're now going to become a partner of the foundation, could be interacting with the finance team, the comms team, and they'll be providing you all the support that you need to help you be better and help you stay sustainable and succeed in the project. Right, so this is so I put so much time explaining this because I know this is the most important part. I know a lot of people are going to have questions around this, so I hope that I've answered some of the questions before they even come up. What's the next slide? So yeah, let's take note of that. So the next thing will be grant eligibility criteria. So things that we expect you to focus. This is the eligibility criteria, and this is also going to be on the website. It's going to be very detailed. You can go to FAQs as well to look at some of the frequently questions that we have there and for the responses so you don't make the same mistakes. It's important that your project aligns with our focus areas. Price for us, organizations that are for profit but have a mandate that is aligned with social impact. So in that case, let me give you an example. You can be a private sector organization and you provide free medical equipment or
Hello?
prescription drugs to people dealing with drugs. We are not going to fund you to sell it to make more money to grow your for-profit business. So it's very important that when you're putting out your application, you are able to show clearly that this is not going to be a for-profit venture or intervention. Is going to be going to the vulnerable, and it's also going to be at no or very minimal cost to them because the foundation is already going to be taking on a bit of that cost. So that's how we categorize the social enterprise organizations. and the non-profit are strictly organizations that are doing social impact work, and that their model is not for profit business model. Right. We expect that the organization is legally registered in the country that you're resident in, and that we also advise that it's within Africa. Now, we have had a few organizations that have partnered with organizations that are outside of Africa, but those implementing are in Africa, and the beneficiaries are in Africa as well. So that's something to take note of. But I'm sure you can find a bit more answer on that on the Q&A. Your years of existence is very important. We shy away from funding any organization that is less than 2 years, less than 24 months in existence. We want to be able to support organizations that have learned lessons, that have done some work in their area of interest or area of focus for a few years, learned lessons, made mistakes, and sort of gotten themselves to a place where we can trust that when we fund them, right, we're not going to have issues such as organizational issues that could pull down the organization. So it's important that you're at least 2 years or over 2 years. So this is a question that comes up. If I'm 20 months now, and by the time the grant is coming up like this, I'm going to be 2 years, can I still apply? Yes, you can apply. I'm sure I'm going to get that question. Let me just answer it now. But by the time we are awarding the grant, you have to be at least 2 years old. You're going to show track record of your work, so don't worry. That track record already is going to speak for you as well. Your staff strength, we want organizations that have over 2 staff members, full-time staff members, not just volunteers. Volunteers are good for your work. We encourage that we work with volunteers. We know how the sector is, but know that you must have a good enough staff strength to match the sort of the capacity of the work you want to get into. So you want to reach, for example, all the regions in Kenya, right? And you have only 2 staff. How are you going to achieve it? It's not realistic. So please ensure that your staff strength matches the capacity of the work that you have to do. So also, if you're not in a particular region, you want to implement in the Kumasi area in Ghana, and you're in another region entirely, you do not have the support system in that region, either through partnerships or volunteers or some sort of network that allows you to implement there, that could work at a disadvantage to you. So take note of that as well. Governance structure, you have to have a strong governance structure. And when we say governance structure, we're not just talking about board members. Board members are important, but there's a lot more than that. Have processes in place to ensure that you are running as an organization, not as a one-man business, not doing things as you want, but you have a governance structure that ensures that you are accountable to certain sort of to the people that work with you, or the people that lead the organization. So the board is very important as well, but there's a lot more to that. So have a strong governance structure. Your project has to be impactful and has to be innovative. We can't keep doing things the same way as we've been doing it before. We're not looking for organizations that want to do things that have been done over and over again, and maybe yet we are not seeing any change. It has to be innovative. It has to be where we can see that there's going to be change, there's going to be impact, because we are here to change Africa. We're here to impact communities in Africa and ensure that our people are coming out of poverty, our people are coming out of healthcare situations that as much as possible we can deal with. So you have to put together an innovative and impactful project, and you have to show sustainability of that project as well. But so an innovative project, impactful project is one of the things that we look out for. And finally, we would say that when we say direct implementers, we mean that you must be the one implementing. You can't sub-grant our grants, right? So if you're funded, right, you can have a partner organizations that you're working together with, but you're directly involved, because both parties are going to sign the contract, and we're going to be holding both organizations totally responsible for executing that project. And if there are any issues, both organizations are the ones that are going to be that we're going to be, speaking to. So we encourage that you are implementing directly else to implement. Grant guidelines. Right. So I'm sure a few of this I have already mentioned. So I'll just run through it very quickly. So these are the 10 things you should note for the call for application stage. The first thing is that the foundation only recognizes communication in English, only in English. At this time in our life cycle, we're using English to communicate. Hopefully we can grow, and as we can expand to other languages. Please take note of this. So those in Francophone countries, please bear with us and ensure that you put your applications in English. All applications will be made via the online portal, so you can't send us a concept note. So because you know Ndifreke, you just email her your concept notes. It's not going to be recognized. It's not going to be of any use to us. So every application has to go through that online portal. The way the online portal is connecting you from the call for application to the call for proposal to the reviews from the external consultants, all the way to when we select you as the organizations that we're going to fund, onboard you, your monitoring and evaluation, your report, it all connects on that same platform. So please do not send us your application via email, via WhatsApp, via text, or hard copy to our office. We would not accept it. It all has to go through the online application portal. Please confirm that you have adequate internet connection to fill in the application online. It's important. Sometimes people get disconnected and they have to start again. So we always encourage that as you're doing that, make sure that the information is maybe on Word, because typically we even would give you a template of every the questions we're going to ask. So have it on a Word document on your notes so you can just copy and paste. And ensure that your internet connection is strong enough to be able to go through all the stages. Ensure that you complete all the compulsory sections in the application. So that's what we'll say to you, but I would say, or as a team, I think we have agreed, complete every section, because you never know what is going to sell your organization over the next organization, right? Don't forget that we have 1,000+ applications, maybe over 2,000 applications that are going to come in this year, and we are all vying for the same amount of money that the foundation has. So I would encourage you to fill every area of the form. But if you are not able to, all the compulsory areas, sections on the application form, please ensure that you complete that. Also, please ensure all the information carefully before submitting the form. And this is very important, particularly with regards areas like your email, your phone numbers, the contact person, those sort of information. Anything that you are attaching, ensure that you've attached the right document, because we are not going to be able to ask you to come back again and reattach and all of that. So please ensure that you have the right, you've put in all the right information. Now, multiple submissions will be disqualified. It will not be allowed. That's an error there. Will not be disqualified, will be disqualified, yeah? So please take note of that. You're only allowed to submit one application. We know when it's due to internet that you have erroneously submitted multiple applications. We would see the timestamp. We'll be able to see the same information. So don't say, oh, I want to apply in health and apply in enterprise and the same organization, so please, please note that. Number 6 here is that the duration of the proposed program must be a maximum of 12 months. And please start counting 12 months from April of the next year. So do not plan to start implementing your project in December 2022. We are not going to be able to fund that project, and you already have made plans for December, when you will not be getting feedback from us till about February, March of the next year. So plan to commence your our grant cycle in terms of implementation starts in April of the next year. So we're starting the process now because we know there's a lot to be done in that time. And then by the first quarter of the next year, you'll be getting feedback from us. So please ensure that you plan a 12-month, maximum 12-month project from March, April of the next year. Now, the foundation reserves the right to disqualify applications that lack the required information. If we've asked you for board members and you've not put board members, or you put one person as board member, we reserve the right to disqualify that application, but that definitely would happen anyway. I'm sure you know, right? Now, any conflict of interest should be declared at the application stage. The most simple example I'm going to give you in terms of conflict of interest is Ndifreke Okwebnam is the staff of ACT Foundation. Ndifreke Okwebnam is on your board and you are applying for this grant. You must disclose it upfront that Ndifreke Okwebnam is the staff of ACT Foundation, right? So that's a very simple example, but that doesn't typically happen with us. But just take note of that. So conflict of any area of conflict of interest that you can think about, please disclose it on the form, at the application stage. Then number 9 says, kindly ensure that you submit an active email while completing the application form. We have had people that have put an email and then they say they cannot access that email again, and they try to reach out to us to get that email to change. Or maybe the person, for example, you put in a staff's email, you didn't put your general email, and then that staff leaves the organization. And if you're using the staff's personal email, which we discourage strongly, you can't access it again. Please, we are not going to be able to do anything about it. So ensure that the emails that you use, the contact information that you use are active, because we are going to be communicating with you throughout the grant cycle using the CEO's contact details and the contact person. So you have the opportunity to put in 2 different contact details. Please do not put the same contact details in CEO and contact person, because anything could happen. Just have a backup person within the organization that you can put as contact person. Now, only organizations whose applications are successful will be contacted to submit a full proposal. I think I've talked about that a lot already. Right. Things to note, I think I've mentioned quite a number of this. Any conflict of interest should be declared at the application stage. Kindly ensure that you submit an active email address. Ensure that you review the information before submitting. Organizations with multiple applications will be disqualified. Now, the most important part is the call for application will open on the 17th of October 2022, and it will close on the 11th of November 2022 at 11:59 p.m. WAT, right? So please take note of that. Don't try to submit at 11:59 p.m. Please, would encourage you to do that before. Now, the next stage, some things to note for the call for proposal stage, some guidelines to note, is that this process usually will take about 10 to 14 weeks, because you have to submit your proposal. We'll send it to the review consultants, who will take another certain number of weeks to review it, give it back to us. We do the sorting to then be able to select the organizations that are going to be moving to the next stage, to the interview stage. So please note that it takes about that length of time. So it's important you note that. Now, only successful applicants will be invited to submit a full proposal. I think I've mentioned that over and over again. Unique links will be provided, so please do not share your link with a friend or family member. Proposals must indicate a strong monitoring and evaluation plan. I mentioned this as well. It must also show sustainability plan. It's so important. We want to see how you're going to continue to sustain your organization and how that project is going to stay sustainable. I'm sure those of us that work in this space understand exactly what that means. Project budget should be submitted using the template that we would share. So in your call for application stage, we're not going to be asking you for a breakdown of the budgets. But at the proposal stage, we will be asking you for a breakdown of the budgets. And there's a template that you're going to have to use. So please take note of that. You're not going to be using your own template in Excel. There's already a template there. please use that template. We are not going to accept any other templates or any other Excel file that you would send, because it's going to connect to your proposal, and the review committee members have to be able to see your budget alongside your proposal. Be sure to indicate the correct number of direct and indirect beneficiaries. Please, I should just clarify what that means. Direct beneficiaries are those that will be directly, so they are the ones, for example, that you are going to train, right? Now, the indirect beneficiaries are those that are going to benefit because your direct beneficiaries have had the opportunity to be part of that project. So let's say, for example, you've trained 1,000 people in vocational skills, and these 1,000 people have maybe 500 of them have started businesses, and they're able to employ at least 2 people within their organization. Now, the 2 people that they've employed are their indirect beneficiaries, because they're only been able to get jobs because you were able to train these people that have now started businesses. I hope that helps clarify that. So please ensure that you take note of that and ensure that you show that right number, because we are looking at your direct beneficiaries, but we're also going to be looking at the ripple effect of us being able to fund that project, right? So if we fund 100 people and the 100 people create an income or opportunity for 1,000 people, that's a fantastic project, right? Or even for more people than that. So you have to take note of that. It's an important part of the proposal stage. Also, please, we encourage you to please note your project location. Where are you going to be implementing? Not where your organization is based, though. You will put down in the application stage, so we'll have that already. But where are you going to be implementing? Is it going to be in Oshodi in Lagos State? Please let us know. Are you going to be implementing in, 5 states or 5 regions? Mention that. Are you going to be implementing? So just be specific about the number and the exact locations where you intend to implement your project. The states and the regions within the states, that would be very helpful. Also, applicants will be requested to submit additional documents for due diligence. So please ensure that you have documents that you have the documents ready and in the right format. A lot of times people put documents at PDF, and PDF is so heavy and you're not able to attach it. So please start checking now, how do you compress files and ensure that you have files that are less than, I think it's 1 MB or so, or 2 MB is possible. We've done it over and over again. So please start doing that research on how you can compress your file so that you're able to attach those documents. That's a place where we find that a lot of people struggle, because they want to attach a PDF document that is 10 megabytes or 20 megabytes when the allowance we've given is 1 megabyte or less, so please take note of that. Hello, do I still have time? I think I have 2 more minutes to close this out so that we can take questions. But I'm taking my time a bit so that at least, hopefully, it answers a lot of the questions that could possibly come up. Yeah. The other thing would be for Nigerian organizations, please note that you have to have your CAC, which is your Corporate Affairs Commission Form 7. This is just for Nigerian organizations, so please take note. And the form is going to be showing your registered board members. So if for any reason, board members have left or they are no more on the board and you have new board members and you haven't updated it, we encourage you to please start that process now, because by the end of the year, we're going to be expecting that form from you in another 2 months or so. At least by December, you will have to share that form with us. So please ensure that you're already working on that. Also for Nigerian organizations, please note that you have to have your SCOMO certificate. So please start the process now to apply for it. The next thing will be your financial policy and your audited financial reports. Please ensure that you have that ready, because at the proposal stage, we are going to be asking you to attach those documents. And please note that we're asking for, we don't want any audited account that is less than 5 years from the year that you're in. So that's why we're saying 2018 here. So 2018 and above. So you have 5 years. You have to give us an audited account that is 5 years or less So don't go and give us an audited account that you had from 2003, right, or 2005 or 2015. We're not going to accept that. So please take note of that. We're going to be asking you for 2 scanned copies of reference letters from previous organizations that have funded you. Now, so let me correct myself. They do not have to be organizations. It doesn't have to be a funding organization. It could be a corporate funder. It could be an international funder. It could even be individuals that have funded your organization. We're going to be asking you for 2 of those reference letters for us to be able to see who you have worked with in the past. So please take note of that. This question comes up a lot, so I hope nobody has asked it. It can be a corporate organization, so it can be a corporate organization. So let's say a bank that has funded you before through their CSR. As long as they can give you a reference letter, we would accept it. Or it can be a funder, so a donor organization, either a local or international donor organization, right? Now, this is very important to please take note of. Budget sums will be indicated in USD. Every budget that you break down that you're going to share with us at this stage should be in USD. The reason we are saying this is for the sake of a universal currency that is easy for everybody to convert to their own from their own currencies into that. So USD is a currency that we are going to stay with. However, when we select you as a grantee for that year, we will be awarding you grants in the equivalent amount in your local currency. So if you're asking for $10,000, for example, in your budget, because you're going to show us the $10,000 in your currency and the $10,000 as USD, so you have those two to guide you. But we are going to be providing the funding, right, based on your local currency. We're not going to be giving you, disbursing money to you in USD, right? Please take note of that. Nigeria is an African country. We are only using the USD as a universal measure so that everyone can use that to align their budgets to their specific countries. I hope I've been able to explain this properly, but I'm sure if it comes up again, I'll try again to explain it. But it's important to note that how far we have come. So I know I've captured quite a number of things, and I want to say thank you to the over 80 non-profit organizations that we've worked with in the past 5 years, and even more now that we are working with our 2022 grantee organizations. We have had a tremendous success because of the work that they've done. We've impacted over 2 million people. That number is increasing every single day, and we're excited about that because as an organization alone, we might not have been able to get to these numbers of people. And the truth is that we know as Africans that there are a myriad of problems, huge challenges that we're dealing with as a people on this continent. And if we all do not get involved, we would not be able to solve those problems. And that we have been able to impact 2 million people is exciting for us. And then that we have also impacted 80 organizations, not just with funding to continue doing their work, but help them be sustainable, help them grow, help them explore new opportunities, right? We have people that the ACT Foundation grants were their very first fund that they access externally. And after that grants, after working with us for 1 year, they've had opportunities to now access even more funding from different organizations. It's been an amazing time. So thank you to all the organizations that have worked with us over the past 5 years. The foundation has published 4 research. Please go to our website and read that research. We're going to be doing much more, and it's based on some of the experiences that we've had over the past few years with organizations that we're working with. That can be found on our website. I said we constantly build capacity. That's a very interesting thing for us as an organization. We have partnered with organizations across 8 African countries. Yes, we started in Nigeria because we're domiciled in Nigeria. We're like every organization. When you start, you have to start small. You have to build capacity. You have to understand where your strengths are. And now we have been able to do interventions and support organizations across 8 African countries. We want to do more, so we are going to be spreading out more and reaching out to many more organizations on the continent, so we can keep making impact. Our final slide. I've taken 5 minutes into your questions, but I hope I've been able to answer most of them. You would find the links to the call for application on our various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, ways. You would share links, would share different information there that can help guide people. We would remind you when the timelines are closed, so please connect with us on our social media so you can keep up to date with the interventions that we're doing. The capacity building trainings that we'll do, the call for applications that will be open, and other opportunities that could come up in the course of our work as a foundation. So please connect with us and learn a bit more about us, and hopefully we would have opportunity to fund a number of you that are on this platform with us, and open up other networks for you as well, so you can take you can grow the work that you do and make more impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fendi. Really explanatory. As you can imagine, the Q&A section is buzzing. So we'll go right into it. I'll take questions in 2 ways. We'd like to take questions in 2 ways. You can either type it in the Q&A section or put it in the chat box, and then we'll just bounce back and forth to answer as many as we can. I've answered some live questions, which is in there previously covered in terms of our area of support, which is on our website as well. If we fund certain organizations in certain countries across Africa, or fund all organizations across Africa. And so, Cindy, I don't know if you'd like to read the questions in the Q&A, or I can just read them out for you.
So if you can, okay, so I think you could read them out.
Okay. So there's a number of questions asking what area we fund. Again, it's on the website, Health, Entrepreneurship, Leadership, Environment. To find out the sub areas, you could check our website for that. Someone wants to know if there's an upper and lower limit to the grants.
When you say upper, I'm trying to find that question, sorry. When you say upper and lower limits to the grants, is it in terms of funding amounts? Is it in terms of the size of the organization?
I think so, in terms of the funding amount.
Okay, so I'll just take it from both sides, just in case, Mamadou, just in case you mean either of them. So in terms of grant amount, we do not have a limit to how much we can fund. That's because we're very open to innovative ideas. However, what we would say typically is that consider the cost the amount that you're asking for in relation to your beneficiaries. So look at it from a cost per beneficiary perspective. And what I mean by that, you want to reach 100 people, and you want us to give you $500,000 or $100,000. Think about it. If we spread that money across each of those beneficiaries in one way or the other, would give them, that would be money right in their hands. So that's something you need to think. So we look at it from a cost per beneficiary perspective. So please take note of that. So there's no limit, but also be realistic about the amounts that you're asking for in relation to the number of people that you want to reach. And don't forget, don't plan on the number of people you want to reach based on the amount you want to ask for. Plan based on your capacity to actually reach those people, and that you have the resources and the network that allows you reach them. Then if you want to look at it from an upper lower limit, from how big the organization has to be or how small the organization has to be, we fund, as I said, I think our limit is be at least 2 years old. We have funded organizations where we have been their first external donors, aside from board members and friends and families supporting them, right? So those are things that you definitely need to sort of consider. So there's no limit in terms of how much we can give, but we would look at it based on your cost per beneficiary and your capacity to be able to manage that sort of funding. So another example that will be good to give here, if you have never received $50,000 funding ever as an organization, and then you ask us to give you $100,000, we might be a bit skeptical because we know that sometimes people get funding and can misuse it. It's not as if you may not get it. You could get it, but we would have to do several checks on your organization and what you are able to, what sort of funding you've been able to manage in the past. I hope that helps.
Yes, I think so. So someone else wants to know, can grantees request for budget review after the grant award for effective project implementation? This is due to rapid or high inflation in cost of materials.
Right. So in the only time you would have that opportunity would be during our interview session before we award the grant. So when you're able to have a one-on-one face-to-face with us, we will be looking at your budget with you as well and discussing what you have budgeted and how that affects you and your project. Some people under budget, and we have conversations about the budget and tell you if it's a realistic budget, if it's not a realistic budget. We have those. That's the only time that review can be done. After that, we're not going to be able to do that because once the board approves a certain amount for your organization and the CEO approves a certain amount, we are not going to be able to change that again. It affects our entire planning. So if that is going to happen, it has to be during your during the interview stage of the application.
Okay. Ms. India, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So someone else wants to know, how many old grantees do you target to support and how many new grantees will you onboard in 2023? Hello?
Say that again. I missed that.
Okay. How many old grantees do you target to support and how many new grantees will you onboard in 2023?
So we don't necessarily, so we look at it from how well the organizations have done, the old grantees have done in the past year. So we don't necessarily have a quota for external grantee, for new grantees and open. I would say what we have done in the past, it has almost been 50-50 or 60-40, right? But that would also depend on the quality of work that our old grantees have done, right? If we find in a project so let's say we have an old grantee that has done work in malaria, and we find another intervention in malaria that is more innovative, is going to be more impactful, they're going to reach much more people who will take the new grantee over the old grantee, right? So you're constantly having to ensure that you're improving your work that you do.
Thank you. So there are two questions that are similar. I'll just read both and then you can give one answer. What if my organization has just been funded by one organization? Do I still need to get two separate letters from two organizations? The second question is, in a situation where the corporate funder delays in providing the requested letter, which seems to be mandatory, what do I do?
So I got the second question. I missed the first one.
Okay, first one is, what if my organization has just been funded by one organization? Do I still need to get two separate letters from two organizations?
Okay, so in terms of your organization being funded by one organization, don't forget that I clarified that it doesn't have to be an organization. Has any board member contributed to funding your organization? Has your spouse funded your organization? And you can show track record that they gave you 50,000 naira or a million naira as when you started your organization. Those people should be able to give you a reference. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just an organization, right? Some people have individuals, board members. When you first start, there are board members that come on board and say, okay, going for the next 2 years, we're going to be contributing 100,000 every month or every quarter towards helping you with administration or with operations. Those sort of things sometimes happen. So those sort of, in that case, you should be able to get a reference from one of them or a letter from the board chair saying that this is what we do, right, to be able to support the organization, right? The other one was with regards, sorry, help me, Elu. What was the second question again?
The second one was if the organization is delaying in providing you a reference.
Oh, yes. So what we would advise is that you ask more than 2 organizations. So if you've gotten more than 2 organizations fund you, please don't ask just the 2. Ask as many as possible, whichever one comes, because you find that you need those references over and over again. If you already have a reference from an organization within this year that had written for another project, right, it will be easy for them to give you one as well. So that's what you should consider.
Someone else wants to know, does an organization registered as an incorporated trustee with only one trustee on its CAC form, is an organization who is registered as an incorporated trustee with only one trustee on its CAC form eligible for this grant? The organization has internal operating structure comprising of governance board members and management team.
So if it's one trustee that you have on your CAC document, that's fine. The only other thing we're asking for, the board members that you list out, when we get to the interview stage, we are going to be asking to contact them, right? Because we have to make sure that they are actually legally involved with the organization and that they have a responsibility to that organization. So in that case, we would ask you for their details, contact details, and we'll reach out to them randomly to ensure that they're actually involved with the organization. But that should be fine.
Okay. I'll just take 2 questions again, not so similar, but I think the first one is direct. Can I submit applications for 2 innovative ideas with great impact? That's the first one. And the second one is, my social enterprise is 3 years old, but is registered as a business name. If I have an NGO arm of the social enterprise, which shows the board of directors, but is less than 2 years, can I apply with the 2-year registration documents?
Hello, let's start with the first one.
Yeah, so the first one is, can I submit 2 innovative ideas with great impact?
Yeah, okay. So with the 2 innovative ideas, I've said it already that as long as it's the same organization, we would encourage you to please submit 1 innovative idea. The one you need the most funding for, please select that one that is most innovative and will make the most impact. Please submit that as your application. Don't submit 2. Choose 1 and submit, because I'm sure everyone here has at least 3-4 projects that are interesting that they want funding for, right? And imagine if everybody puts their 3-4 proposals in or applications in with all their, we're in trouble, right? So pick one that I think is most important to you, I think will make the greatest impact, and apply for that funding for that one. The second one, Elu.
Okay, so my social enterprise is 3 years old, but is registered as a business name. If I have an NGO arm of the social enterprise which shows the board of directors, but is now less than 2 years old, can I apply with the 2 years registration documents? So I think the person is just trying to ask, I'm registered as a business. If I now have a separate arm of my business that's now an NGO, can I apply with my business documentation?
Wow, we haven't heard that one before. So registered as a business name for us is not good enough for us as a business name. Right, so you have to be properly incorporated. If you have an NGO, but you haven't registered it, it's not something, we won't encourage that, because we want to ensure that you're a legal entity. Another reason is that that entities, we are not going to be disbursing funds to you as an individual, we're going to be disbursing to that organization, and the account has to be in that organization's name. but we would not encourage as a business name. If you were registered as an incorporated organization, and then you had your NGO or your social enterprise work on you're doing, so let's say you're providing canned food, right? For example, you're producing canned food, and so on the side, as a part of our CSR, we're giving free food to the homeless every Fridays, right? And that is affecting our bottom line. We want to be able to do even much more than just 100 homeless people or something, and then you take much more. Then that's something that we would then say, okay, we are funding it as a social enterprise, right? That part of it. But as a business name, I don't think that would work. But you can try.
Someone else wants to know, when calculating the budget in USD, what exchange rates should be used? Should it be that of the central bank or that's in the parallel markets?
Thank you for that question. I think I thought of that question yesterday as well. I said, how do we do it? So that person asking is definitely a Nigerian, right? Because it's Nigeria that we have separate exchange rates. The CBN has a different one, and the black market has a different one. So typically we would say use the CBN rates for those in Nigeria. Use the CBN rates because that's what we are going to be using as well. So please just use that. Yeah, for those in Nigeria.
Okay. So I'll just go over to the chat to take some questions from there as well. Someone is asking if you're partnering with another organization to implement the ACT-funded project, not subleasing, would that organization have to meet the requirements of being more than 2 years old and being a non-profit or social enterprise?
So if the organization you're partnering with, so there are two organizations in this case,
yes,
and one of the organizations is less than 2 years, is possibly less than 2 years, and is also what?
Not a social enterprise or a non-profit.
Not a social enterprise. But if you are the non-profit and the organizations you're partnering with is not a not-for-profit, we would look at both organizations, right, as two entities and then as one entity. So each organization sort of wants to see, so it doesn't have to be an organization can be a private sector organization, right? But they're bringing something to the table. But they have to be registered, have to have been in existence for 2 years. So both organizations must align to the criteria that we have set for both of them. Does that make sense? They have to align for both of them.
Yes, it
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So this is a common question we get all the time. I just like that you speak on it. So this person says, twice my organization has been to the second stage of the application, twice we have lost out on that stage. How can we know what the issues are with our applications? So multiple applications hasn't gotten funded yet.
Right. What I would encourage, what I've said, I think a number of times, I think last year, early this year, we had a session sort of to give feedback to organizations at the end of the grant cycle, because we had people asking us this sort of question and saying, how do I know what are the possible things that could have prevented me from getting the funding? Now, we can't give every single person direct feedback on what stopped them from getting the funding. However, you can ask us those questions pardon me, after the grant cycle. Does that make sense? After the grant cycle, you can ask us those questions, and we'll be able to go back to your form and look at it and give you feedback. But that would be based on you sending us an email and asking us for that feedback. And we'll be able to either schedule a call or send an email responding to you and telling you why, right? But if you do not ask at a session like this, I can't say, because none of us here have your details in front of us. Our review committees sometimes do give us feedback on what they are worried about the particular organization, and why they did not get the funding. So why they are not selecting them to receive funding from the organization. So it will depend on you as
So I saw a question, I can't quite track it right now, but the question was asking what the scenario would be in a situation where the CEO is funding the organization from their personal funds.
Please say that again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please say it again. Say that again, please.
I was saying that I saw a question, I can't quite track it right now, but the question was, how would, if a CEO is spending from their personal funds to support the organization, how do they sort of prove that?
Okay, I think you can, that can be in terms of, I'm sure they're asking in terms of a reference where there is a CEO that is funding all the projects that is going on. I think your board, from your board's end, they can do a reference letter showing that the funding for the organization has been coming from the founder or the CEO of the organization, right? And that just shows that there's funding coming from, because even in the forms, we ask you to how much has come from the different people that have funded you at different times. So you'll be able to show that. And that's absolutely fine, because most NGOs start with just funding from the founders.
Okay. Someone else wants to know what happens to a nonprofit who is successful for the initial stage but doesn't have an office and is operating from a personal building like their home.
So we will need you to disclose that, right? We will need you to disclose that. We want to make the organization as independent from you as possible to ensure that you have the right structures in place. So if it's operating from your home, are your staff working out of your home? How is that all playing out? So that's something that is important for us to be able to know. There are circumstances that does happen, but we don't encourage it. We need you to be separate. And it depends on how young you are as well. But how is it working out? It's something that we would, during the due diligence, we would have to take note of and document it. And then the final decision will be taken by the management team on that. Because those are not very, it does happen, but it's not that common.
Okay, I think we have time for like 3 more questions. So I'll just take one now. So the person is asking, is there no limit to the number of times you can sponsor an organization? You can fund some for 10 to 20 years, depending on their excellent work, right? Please guide. So they're asking if we can fund perpetually for a long.
Yes, we will not encourage that, because the way we are structured as an organization, you find that we are constantly building your capacity, right? We're constantly providing you networks. So we want you to outgrow ACT Foundation funding. We want you to be getting funding of $1 million. We want to be getting funding that is a lot bigger than what we can give you. So you will know that you can outgrow the funding that we gave. And that's what we're pushing for. That's what we're encouraging. So we don't want to be funding you for 20 years or 10 years. We want you to grow so big that you're donating to ACT Foundation so we can keep more organizations funding.
Okay. We have been operating for 4 years now, but not registered with the CAC. But we got registered with the CAC this year. Are we qualified?
That's a tough one, because we want that track record that you're registered for at least 2 years. But if you can show us evidence that you've been doing work for 4 years, you can show that evidence, then it's something we definitely would consider. There are situations where we make those sort of concessions, but you have to show evidence that has been happening, that you've been able to achieve that you've been able to grow in that 4 years, even without being registered, and you've made impact, you've been implementing interventions and that sort of thing. And then we definitely would consider it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Indy. I think that's all the questions we can take at this time. I appreciate you for making the time to walk us through expectations and what to look out for to have a successful application with the Act Foundation grants. I'd just like to invite. Sorry about that.
Just one question that I noticed, and where the person asked, can the government give reference? Yes, if the government is funded you and you can get reference from them, then we'll accept that as reference. Yeah, particularly for those outside of Nigeria, we would accept that. There are a lot more questions here, but I hope that during the entire conversation we've been able to answer some of them. And if there are questions that are very important to you and you're not getting answers, I think, Elo, you can share an email address, maybe where they can reach out to you or reach out to the team, where we can answer some questions that they just do not know how to, because there are quite a number of questions here, and over 100 questions have come in. But I hope that we will be able to provide that sort of support after the meeting.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Indy. Yes, there are lots of questions. I think there's also a lot of information on our website that answers those questions. So if you could please take some time to look at our websites and see, especially with like the areas that we fund. I think we're pretty explicit in the areas and sub areas that we look to fund. Thank you so much again for making the time. I'd just like to end reminding everyone of our book series, which Cindy shared about. We have a 4-part book series that we published. Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. So I was ending by saying that we have a 4-part book series that we published this year, and it's available for purchase. We're going to put the link in the chat, and so that you can purchase. It's on nonprofit starting, operating, sustaining, and measuring impact. And we really appreciate if you purchase a copy. Thank you so much, everyone, for making the time. As Ms. Cindy said, if you have questions that weren't answered here, I'll put an email address in the chat as well. Please email us and then we'll answer as soon as we're able to.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation is a grant-making organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and related vulnerabilities across Africa. Our vision: to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa. Our mission: to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potentials and empower beneficiaries. ACT Foundation supports sustainable, high-impact initiatives that provide innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges in Africa. In our 4-year journey, we have funded 75 organizations across 800 African communities. Over 1.9 million people provided with critical interventions in the following 4 focus areas: health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. From 36 health interventions, we have impacted 328,283 plus people. The Foundation's work is in line with the Goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which is geared towards facilitating better healthcare services and outcomes for the underdeserved and low-income groups in communities across Africa. Our health interventions through our implementing partners are focused on cancer, maternal and child health, malaria. In the areas of entrepreneurship, from 28 interventions, we have impacted 17,015 plus people. Working directly with Sustainable Development Goal 1, No Poverty, and Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. To achieve this goal, the Foundation supports initiatives in the following areas: vocational skills acquisition, financial inclusion and literacy education. In the areas of environment, from 12 interventions, we have impacted 47,833 plus people. We are focused on providing innovative solutions for waste management. We have created awareness on waste management, waste upcycling, recycling, and disposal. In the end, the Foundation aims to reduce the effect of improper waste management in communities across the region and encourage the reuse of certain waste materials. Another area supported by the Foundation concerning the environment is the promotion of clean water and sanitation. In the areas of leadership, from 16 interventions, we have impacted 1,525,353 plus people. We are continuously developing the leadership skills of individuals, particularly young people, for governance, economic, organizational, and professional development. To achieve this, the Foundation partners with organizations that focus on thought leadership and national development. We have reached 6 African countries. We contribute to capacity development within the non-profit and impact space and have conducted 30 plus capacity building trainings. 1,700 plus people reached through our annual Breakfast Dialogue multi-stakeholder conference. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference.